All right, konnichiwa. Good afternoon, Tokyo. We are coming up on the very last session on what I think everybody would agree is a terribly exciting XRP Community Day. And as the announcer said, the topic is a decade of building on the XRPL. This should be a fun conversation. We're also making a little bit of history today because I've been told this is the first time Monica and Brad have been on the same stage in public.
It's exciting.
So Tokyo, making history. This is great.
That's right, yeah.
So this is going to be a casual conversation. We'll get a little bit of insight into what's gone on over the last 10 plus years as the XRPL and Ripple have grown. So Monica, I'm going to start with you. Let's go back to the beginning, way back when
Rewind.
you joined 11 years ago. Actually, this week was Monica's
Tuesday was the 11th.
11-year anniversary at Ripple. So that's pretty cool. How many employees were there when Ripple, when you joined Ripple, and then why? Why did you decide in 2013 to come join this little crypto company?
I'm not sure how many people were at the company then. I think roughly 10. I should have consulted David before coming up here. I think it was roughly 10, mostly engineers. I knew Chris Larson, who co-founded the company. He was CEO then. He's now our executive chairman of the board. I had worked for him when he was the CEO of Prosper years ago. Prosper was this really exciting, innovative, peer-to-peer lending platform. And so I really enjoyed my time working for Chris then, saw him as a real visionary and also someone who had a real mission to democratize finance. That's a through line in his career. E-loan first in the 90s to bring mortgage lending online, and then Prosper, and then Ripple. So I was just catching up with him. It was just an innocent catch-up meeting, I think in August or something of 2013. But when he started to talk about what was happening with first Bitcoin and then the XRP ledger and what we were doing at Ripple, he was on fire. He was so excited about what the opportunities were. And it was more than just a business opportunity to him. It was like, this is going to be this is the most important invention in finance in more than 50 years. So I really bought into his excitement and his vision and haven't looked back since. We're still working on it.
That's awesome. I remember like in the early days, one of the first real world application on the ledger was issued assets.
Yeah.
What were some of the early kind of interesting things that were tried and maybe stuck, maybe didn't, but made it just kind of an interesting journey in the early days?
Yes. I mean, it was just so obvious to see, the gateways and the issued assets on Ledger, and you could see people using the network like payments network. So it was right there.
Yeah.
Some of them were creative use cases. We were just reminiscing the other night about one person had created a silver dime gateway. So you could buy silver dimes on XRP Ledger. I think this person, if you wanted to redeem them, he'd mail you silver dimes. I remember internally within the team, one person created a beer coin. So when we go to get drinks, we could settle up with each other on Ledger.
Highly practical.
Highly practical.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, I'm going to pass it over to you. You joined a couple years after Monica.
Yep.
But you had a already successful career in Silicon Valley as an executive. A lot of things you could be doing. Why come to Ripple?
I first got intrigued by what Ripple is doing, in part because I'd already been exposed to Bitcoin. And in around 2012, 2013, I had bought Bitcoin and thought what was interesting, but I was always concerned that one of the limiting factors for Bitcoin's success was this idea of anti-government, anti-bank. And I always felt like if we're going to rewire how financial infrastructure works, it's not going to be through a parallel system. It's going to be by improving the existing system. And so when I first heard about Ripple, I was compelled in part because it felt much more smarter. And let's work with the system. Let's work with governments. Let's work with banks. I will also say, like Monica, I think we're all drawn to people and things where you want to be a part of something bigger than you. And you want to put your kind of dent in the universe, to borrow something that Steve Jobs used to say. And Ripple always felt to me, and the idea was big. The idea of rewiring how financial infrastructure worked. And, Chris Larsen is a human who has a lot of passion. And I was drawn in by that passion and the opportunity to put my own dent in the universe. And I think we've been fortunate to assemble a team. But also, again, what's so exciting to me and powerful about being here is it's more than just Ripple. It's all of the XRP community, and seeing that community thrive and grow and evolve has really been a source of a lot of gratification and excitement.
No doubt. I've been another one. I'm going to stay with Brad for a second. So, this region has always been sort of at the root of what Ripple does. There's a long history here. I know there's stories even before I joined of trips out to Japan. We had the team from SBI here recently. Why is it, do you think, that Japan has had such a kind of early adopter role in the broader crypto space and a kind of a key early chapter in the Ripple story?
I mean, a couple of things I would point to, some from the earliest days, and that's just a passionate group of technology innovators. And I think that the community in Japan and the technology community and the innovation around that has really been pioneers. That certainly, I think, was true in the earliest days, and enthusiasm for what crypto could be, and respect for how the XRP ledger was architected differently in terms of speed, in terms of scalability. But quite frankly, the other thing that was unique and different about Japan was a government and regulatory environment that created a framework to be clear about how crypto would be regulated. And you've seen a lot of countries lean in a very positive way, and certainly Japan, the UK, Singapore, Switzerland. But honestly, the US is not one of those countries that has leaned in yet. I think that's yet. And I think that will happen. But so I think the earliest days, Japan was a key market because of both the community, the technical innovation, the technical leadership, married with a government and regulatory environment that made that welcome.
You mentioned we've been traveling around a little bit this week, and you mentioned one of your early trips flying in, and it was sort of a pretty interesting winter setting, and it was almost a positive omen. Maybe you could share that story.
This is, I think, spring of 2016. It was, I think, early April, and it had snowed in Japan. I landed at like 6 a.m. There's no cars on the road. There was this beautiful light snow over the Imperial Palace, and it was actually quite a magical moment. It was one of the first times, well, I'd been to Japan before, but the first times with Ripple, I had been to Japan, and it was really a quite spectacular morning.
It's, I think, a positive omen for what has come before. All right, so those are the early days. Always fun to reminisce. Let's fast forward almost 10 years after Brad joined. Monica, I'll start with you. How do you feel both Ripple and the XRP ledger have sort of, grown, in some ways together, some ways distinctly, and in what ways have they stayed the same?
Well, I think what's changed over the past decade is, the market, like looking externally, the market has come a really long way. Multi-trillion-dollar asset class, many countries creating clear regulation, and lots of participants. The whole of crypto has an ecosystem, a vibrant ecosystem of developers that are, open source developers working on the blockchains, developers building really interesting, innovative Web3 applications on those. And then also, traditional enterprises and financial institutions participating in a big way. So the whole industry has come a very long way. And I think Ripple's been a leader through that. we were not the most popular back in 2014, 2015, deciding to partner with banks and, just discuss with banks, how can we build solutions together? But I think that was a very smart decision. And as Brad called out, the decision to always take compliance really seriously and lead with that has really paid off. So I think institutional adoption is one highlight for me. And then when I think about the XRP ledger, it's so exciting to see all of the innovation blossoming there and the community really growing. Like looking in this room, other events we've been to around the world, it's a global community that's really, sprawling. So I think that's really great. And what stayed the same is, the things about XRP Ledger that have just been really stable and reliable. The decentralized network, the exchange within, and how payments has been a really great use case.
Absolutely. Brad, same question over to you. What's
Well, I think
what stayed the same?
Well, I think one of the things that has stayed the same, which has been so powerful, and it is this idea of being a part of something bigger than you, is this idea around an internet of value and allowing value to move the way information moves today. You and I are old enough, Monica's not, but you and I are old enough to remember the earliest days of the internet. And, it feels very similar, that the movement, it feels like a movement, not really a revolution, but maybe an evolution in that regard. I think what has changed is it's so exciting to see the world move from just experiments and ideas to real projects, real utility, real customers. And I continue to think that the XRP Ledger is one of the very few where you see real enterprise use cases, there's still a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of meme coins that I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. And, I think Ripple and I think many in the XRP community have always tried to take a very long view about where the world will be 10 years from now, or whatever your time frame you want to talk about. But I've always believed we can argue about how long it's going to take. But I think everybody, I hope in this room, would agree that relying upon things like Swift, which was architected 50 years ago, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's going to change. We can argue about how fast and how long and which banks and all those things. But I go to bed at night, every night, knowing it's going to get there. Do I wish it happened faster? Absolutely. Do I wish, the governments wouldn't be obstacles? Do I wish banks wouldn't be so concerned and, cautious? Yes, of course. But I also, take, to see billions of dollars of activity where, I remember when we had $1 million, it was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. We're making progress. So that's exciting. So some things have stayed the same. Some things have evolved.
One thing that hasn't changed is Brad's never satisfied with how quickly things move. So you can kind of get a vision of that. I'm still recovering from him calling me old, but I guess I'll.
I don't know how old you think I am. I don't remember pre-internet.
All right, let's take a look at kind of the landscape. We live in an industry that moves very, very quickly. Like every year feels like 10 years. But I want to ask you for sort of big Ripple moments, and let's just pick the last year or two. So Monica, again, I'm going to start with you. Okay. From your perspective, what's the big moment for Ripple over the last couple of years?
I'm not going to steal Brad's thunder because I know I can anticipate what you're going to say. But last couple of years. So one, from a business perspective, with our payment solution, we crossed $50 billion and $60 billion in total volume processed. It's still a drop in the bucket when you think of the opportunity for global money movement. But it feels, it doesn't feel like it is real tangible progress toward the internet of value. Also, within our suite of products, we identified this broader opportunity of what the little dent that Ripple can make in not just facilitating cross-border payments, but being really the partner to any financial institution that wants to do finance on chain. And so with that, the acquisition of Medico last year to bring custody and secure digital asset storage into our product portfolio, that was a really big moment. It's still like one of the largest deals in crypto. Those are a couple. The other piece, and I know we were just talking about this, but the various amendments that have come to XRP Ledger, these new features and the development is happening faster and faster. And so not only are we seeing more kind of primitive DeFi capabilities added to the protocol itself, but I'm really excited for what's to come on the programmability front.
Two things come to mind, like big events. I'll save the bigger one for the second. But, look, I think the stablecoin effort is a really important one. And I think Ripple has always taken the view that anything we can do that is good for the XRP ledger, we're going to lean into. Bringing liquidity to the XRP ledger is good for everyone in the community. And anytime I read online or just somebody saying that Ripple somehow isn't committed to the XRP ledger, I just think that they totally are missing it. Like, we're 100% committed to the XRP ledger. We always will be. And we would only do a stable coin if we thought it was good for the XRP ledger. But I think that's going to be an exciting step around the RLUSD. Like the second one, which I'm sure Monica was letting me talk about, but getting sued by the U.S. government is not a fun experience. And I think it was pivotal for Ripple, but it's also pivotal for the crypto industry at large. And I think not just in the United States, but even globally. We had sort of an opportunity to settle that without fighting the fight. We ended up deciding to fight the fight, and it was expensive. It was certainly stressful. I was actually, right before I got up here, I was reading on Twitter, and somebody on Twitter was commenting how much it looks like Brad has aged over the years. It's like, well, the government sues you, it stresses you out. Anyway, that was certainly an important step for the company, but an important step for crypto at large. And I think I'm proud of the fact that we stood up to what I think is kind of a U.S. government entity that's being a bully and still being a bully to other entities. Thank you. Anyway, so those are, I think, a couple of momentous events in the history of Ripple and the XRP.
It has been a busy couple of years.
And I do look older.
There we go with the age thing. I don't know what's going on. All right, Monica, back over to you. We've been traveling around the region recently, and it's one of the fun things is we've been able to share a lot of new, exciting news. One of those announcements was around our Futureverse partnership related to custody. But custody is a relatively new entrant in the lineup for Ripple, if you will. So maybe interesting for the audience to hear a little bit about our journey. So we're adding. Brad mentioned stablecoins, Futureverse. Kind of highlighted custody. How do we get there, and what sort of was that progression?
Yeah. Through our payments business, we had to solve a lot of problems to bring the benefits of doing payments on chain, which we all know is about speed, transparency, cost efficiency, bring those benefits to regulated institutions in a way that was seamless. So I think something many of us in the industry may underestimate is just the challenge of integrating blockchains with traditional systems, so payment systems. So that's been a long-standing priority of ours, and over time we have built payout capabilities into more than 80 markets. We've also had to create and solve for creating liquidity across different fiat currencies as well as digital assets, and so that also, as an operation, is something that those two things together we think are things that financial institutions can use not just for payments but for other use cases in the future. So that's kind of what sprouted this vision for Ripple to really become this end-to-end digital asset infrastructure provider for financial services to come to blockchain. And so the next piece was to bring in custody through the Medico acquisition. The RLUSD stablecoin is another kind of critical piece. And what's really exciting is we see XRP Ledger being best in class for institutional decentralized finance. So our priority is for all of these things to, tightly integrate with XRP Ledger, and to, for XRPL to ultimately become the super DEX, the decentralized exchange that has the most powerful flywheel effect for liquidity. It attracts liquidity from other chains. So that's the big idea.
Bring it all together. That's exciting.
I wish it was that easy.
Brad, so we're here at XRP Community Day. When you think about integration and the community building and all those things, what's important to you as you think about things coming on the XRP ledger?
Well, certainly, I mean, one of the announcements this week was around programmability. And, I think one of the things Ripple has hopefully gotten better at is listening to and engaging with the community. And we want to make sure that as we champion various things, we're doing that in partnership with the community. And I think some of the programmability stuff we talked about earlier this week that we think has real opportunity, which, by the way, in large part was a reaction to the community. What we heard and learned, we evolved our own point of view. Yeah. And you've heard more about that earlier from David Schwartz. So that's certainly an important one that I think has evolved and I will continue to evolve as we do events like this and as other people in the community do events. Gold Coast XRP is one. There's one that's in Las Vegas, and I think we want to engage with this community. And it's a source of pride and passion that there's so many people that are so passionate about what's going on in the XRP ecosystem.
Totally. All right. Well, we're going to wind up here, but we have a passionate group of folks, speaking of passion, out here in the audience that care about XRP. Last thoughts from each of you. I'll start with Monica. How can the audience get more involved with the ledger?
It's a great question. I mean, if you're a builder, definitely recommend checking out xrplgrants.org. We announced just earlier this summer a fund specifically dedicated to providing funds to developers in Japan and Korea. And we're excited. I mean, there's been a lot of interest so far, lots of applications rolling in. So I would say that's a great place to start.
Awesome. Brad?
Apex. We do a developers conference once a year. It was in Amsterdam last spring, which was our largest by far. We were all there. It was awesome. We're doing that in Singapore in 2025, I think in June.
It's still, I think, being locked down.
Yeah. All right. So Singapore 2025 Apex. I encourage you all to come. It was a great event last year. I'm certain it'll be a great event this year. And again, I think the community keeps growing, and we are optimistic about what is ahead for not just Ripple, but certainly as we care deeply about the entire XRP community. So thank you very much.
Yeah, hope to see you there. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Brad. It's been fun to catch up, and I know we could keep doing this for hours, but
yeah,
we'll end here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, EVM. Oh, okay. And I got actually, fun little fact, Eric Van Miltenberg, his nickname is EVM. So he was the original EVM.
Before.
Yes. Should have trademarked that.
Yeah, no.
But we also just want to say thank you so much. This wraps up the programming section of the day. We really are so grateful that you came here to join us. And we're very grateful for all your contributions over the years. Like we've said many times, longest standing, largest community. And so we're very grateful to be a part of what you all are a part of as well. And I want to say that it doesn't end here. We have a great party across the street that's starting at 6 p.m. I think it's at the Maid Cafe, if I have that right. But you're free to mix and mingle here until then. And I think that's it. Yeah. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.